Hashtag the tale of Idun's apples and the giant Tjasse. Once upon a time, long, long ago, in an age when the world was brimming with magic and wonder, there existed a realm high above the clouds called Asgard. This was the home of the gods, a place of golden halls and shimmering rainbow bridges. Among the deities who dwelled there was the beautiful goddess Idun, keeper of the magical apples of youth. Idun was a sight to behold, with hair like spun gold that caught the sunlight and sparkled like dewdrops at dawn. Her eyes were as blue as forget-me-nots, and her laughter sounded like tinkling bells. But it wasn't just her beauty that made Idun special. She had a very important job. She was the caretaker of the enchanted apples that kept the gods eternally young. Every day, Idun would make her way to her secret garden, hidden behind a veil of mist at the edge of Asgard. There, rows upon rows of apple trees stood, their branches heavy with fruit that gleamed like polished gold. As she walked among the trees, Idun would sing softly, her melodious voice causing the apples to glow even brighter. With gentle hands, she would pluck the ripest fruits and place them carefully in her woven willow basket. Far away from the radiant beauty of Asgard, beyond the misty mountains to the north, lived a fearsome giant named Tjasse. His home was a dark and forbidding fortress of ice and stone, as cold and hard as his own heart. Tjasse was a bitter and cruel creature, envious of the gods' immortality and beauty. Day and night, he schemed and plotted, dreaming of ways to steal Idun's apples for himself. One day, Tjasse heard whispers of Loki, the crafty god known for his mischief-making in Asgard. Aha, thought Tjasse, his icy eyes gleaming with malice, perhaps I can use this trickster to achieve my goal. So, on a chilly evening when Loki was out on one of his adventures, Tjasse set a clever trap. He caught the unsuspecting god in a net of unbreakable chains. "Let me go," cried Loki, struggling against his bonds. But Tjasse only laughed, a sound like icicles shattering on frozen ground. "I'll release you," said the giant, his voice as cold as a winter wind, "but only if you swear to bring me Idun and her magical apples." Loki, frightened and desperate to be free, reluctantly agreed to the giant's terms. Upon his return to Asgard, he sought out Idun in her beloved garden. The trickster god put on his most charming smile and approached her with a glint in his eye. "Dear Idun," he said, his voice smooth as honey, "I've discovered the most extraordinary apples in the forest beyond the mountains. They're even more marvelous than yours. Come, let me show you this wonder." Idun, whose curiosity often outweighed her caution, was intrigued by Loki's words. Despite a small voice of warning in her heart, she agreed to follow him, bringing her precious basket of apples along. As soon as they crossed the borders of Asgard, Tjasse appeared, transforming into an enormous eagle, with feathers as sharp as blades. With his mighty talons, he snatched up Idun and her basket, soaring away towards his dark fortress with his prize. Back in Asgard, it didn't take long for the other gods to realize something was terribly wrong. Their skin began to wrinkle, their hair to gray, and their bones to ache. Without Idun's apples, they were aging rapidly. They searched high and low for the missing goddess, but she was nowhere to be found. Finally, under the stern gaze of Odin, the wisest of the gods, Loki confessed to his terrible deed. Odin's one eye flashed with anger, and his voice boomed like thunder, "You must right this wrong, Loki. Bring Idun back, or you shall be banished from Asgard for all eternity." Loki, not wishing to be cast out, transformed himself into a falcon and flew with all haste to Tjasse's fortress. There he found Idun, lonely and sad, locked in a tower of ice. With quick thinking, Loki changed Idun into a small nut that he could carry in his beak, and then he flew back towards Asgard as fast as his wings could carry him. But Tjasse soon discovered the escape and gave chase in his eagle form. What followed was a wild pursuit over towering mountains and through deep valleys. Loki flew faster than he had ever flown before, his heart pounding, with Tjasse's razor-sharp beak snapping at his tail feathers. As they approached the gates of Asgard, the gods, who had been anxiously watching for Loki's return, quickly built an enormous bonfire. Loki, summoning every last bit of his strength, swooped over the flames at the very last second. But Tjasse, in his massive eagle form, couldn't stop in time. His wings caught fire, and he plummeted to the ground in a blaze of feathers and fury. Once safely inside Asgard, Loki gently placed the nut on the ground and transformed Idun back to her true form. The gods cheered with joy at the sight of her, and soon they were all young and beautiful once more, thanks to the magic of the golden apples. From that day forward, the gods guarded Idun and her garden even more carefully. They built high walls around it and placed magical wards to keep out any who might wish to steal the precious fruits. As for Loki, he solemnly vowed never to cause such trouble again. But whether he kept that promise? Well, that's another story for another day. And so, dear children, remember the tale of Idun and her apples. It teaches us that youth and beauty are precious gifts, but wisdom and kindness are the true treasures that make life golden. For in the end, it was not the apples alone that saved the gods, but the bravery, cleverness, and teamwork they showed in rescuing Idun. Now, close your eyes and dream of enchanted gardens and golden apples, of soaring falcons and fiery gates. For who knows? Perhaps a little bit of that ancient magic still lingers in our world, waiting for those with open hearts and bright imaginations to find it.